Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm excited to be sitting down and just trying out a bunch of new products. I purchased everything I'm going to use today except for one product. I don't know about lips yet, but I will let you know when we get there. There's been a lot dropping and I just keep buying it. So I have both of the new Makeup by Mario Soft Sculpt products. I also have the NARS Laguna Cream Bronzer. You know, the bronzers are coming in hot. I did also pick up the Dominique Cosmetics Translucent Powder and Concealer. This was out of stock for a minute, the powder was, and then I just went ahead and picked it up when it became available. I finally got my Made by Mitchell Blush Lights. These are the really glowy liquid blush highlights. It took, I want to say, over a month to get to me, so that was quite the wait. I also thought I would do a really pretty look with the Pat McGrath Bridgerton 2 palette. Honestly, I've had this and just haven't demoed it. And then in terms of PR, the only thing I have pulled in front of me is the Cali Ray Glow Boosting Drops. Other than that, though, I really want to focus in on the complexion products here, and then lip products. I'm always buying lip products, so we'll see how I feel once we get to that. But I will link everything that I used today down below in my description box. If you're new here, I hope you subscribe. And if you enjoy trying new makeup or just chatty, get ready with me first impressions, please give this video a thumbs up. And without further ado, let's get into it. I'm sure a lot of you noticed, like I did, that there is literally a ton of like bronzers and blushes dropping right now, more so bronzers. So I really didn't have a brand new eyeshadow palette that I haven't demoed that I felt like you guys would be interested in, but I thought I would do a really soft, pretty look with this Pat McGrath. This is the Mothership Belle of the Ball. Is that what it's called? Belle of the Ball. This is the second installment of the Bridgerton. I haven't even swatched this. I did not set my entire lid because I really want to do just like a soft halo. So I'm just going to work this out. I zoomed you in a little bit more and I want to start out with the deepest matte in the palette. I'm going to be using a Rephr 26. Rephr did just, I think, restock their concept store and a lot of their other brushes. And really where I feel they excel is in their detail brushes for eyes. So I will link that down below. If you're not familiar with the concept store through Rephr, essentially you get like 40 to 50% off the brushes. They have like kits as well. And you basically leave your feedback, like a 5-minute feedback form in exchange for the discount. So they can kind of hear your feedback and know what to bring back or what to adjust with future brushes. I think it's a really cool concept. And like I said, I really love their detail brushes. I find that a lot of brands don't really have a lot of these really tiny detail brushes. So whenever they're on sale, I think around like Black Friday, I picked up like 10 of them because they were half off. So to blend the edges, I'm going to go into this shade right here. And this is one of those, there was a different formula for Pat McGrath. It's almost like a baked gelée type formula. They're not powdery at all, but she actually came out with a blush palette with the Bridgerton 2 and I bought it and I still haven't used it. For some reason, I feel like this is blending patchy, which I'm not sure why. I'm taking my Fenty Beauty powder foundation in the shade 260. I'm just sort of going over the edges. So for the center of the lid, I'm gonna go in with this shade. Normally I would like to play with a more fun, colorful shade, but because we're gonna be applying those Made by Mitchell really like glittery highlighter and blushes, I don't wanna have too much going on. So this is one of these special shades. That's pretty. Definitely gonna have fallout though. This feels a little bit dry and gritty. I feel like it would really probably work super well with a glitter glue. I'm just a little too lazy. You don't need a glitter glue, but. So I'm gonna pull this up pretty high. Okay, so I'm gonna leave it there. I probably could have only used 2 shades, which would have been that darkest shade and then the one in the center, but I'm gonna go off camera and do my liner, lashes, and all of that, and then we will jump into all the complexion products. So now I wanna jump into complexion, which is where the bulk of the products are that I wanna try today. So I wanna start with the Cali Ray Just Add Rays Glow Boosting Drops. This is supposed to be a radiant liquid bronzing oil for a satin finish with luminosity that gives a glow. So essentially it's just a glowy serum primer. It does say face and body. So this comes in a dropper form, and this is incredibly, incredibly liquidy. Like super liquidy, just kind of flying everywhere. I don't know how I feel about that. It's kind of hard to get some, honestly, on your hand without like splashing it all over. But I'm just gonna put it on the outskirts of my face. I applied my Freck Moisturizer. Yeah, this is like super liquidy. This is different than like the Natasha Denona Hygen. That one has a little bit of like a thicker consistency, like a serum. This just feels like an oil to me. It's a lightweight oil, but it's definitely oily. So I wonder, you know, if this would be a great option for those of you with like dry skin. Hopefully keeping it out of my T-zone, it'll work for me. So in terms of like glow, I mean, I see a little bit of a glow, and it definitely does have, I guess, a radiance when you look at it in the component, but it's essentially clear. So I don't think you're gonna get like an illuminating property other than just the hydration. For my T-zone, I have really been enjoying the Danessa Myrick's Yummy Skin Blurring Balm Powder. This is my favorite product, I think, from her so far. A lot of her products, especially like base products, are really geared towards like dry skin. They're very emollient, very dewy. They're just too heavy for me. And I really didn't think I was gonna like this. I like the shade 3. Now I like this for a primer. It really feels, I guess, like a little greasy when you apply it, but it has an oil controlling factor to it. So it's beautiful as a primer. You can use it alone as well, and you'll see like when I apply a little bit of it that it does, you know, even my skin tone out a little bit. But for me, I definitely need more coverage, unless I'm just like, you know, around the house or just wanting something minimal. So you can see that it just evened my skin tone out, and it definitely took down that redness and also just my texture a little bit. But it's interesting because when I applied it originally, it does feel quite emollient, like greasy almost, very slick, and it's a very thin texture, but for some reason it does stay matte in my T-zone. I wouldn't say it's like a drying matte, but it just controls oil. So I am gonna use the new Makeup by Mario products today, and the first one is the Soft Sculpt Transforming Skin Enhancer. This is essentially a very sheer, glowy cream bronzer balm. So you can use it to really warm up your skin. And I saw Mario demo this, you know, multiple times. And when he demos it on himself, he doesn't have foundation on, and it does give him like a nice sculpt and glow. But I'm gonna use it with foundation because that's how I would use it. I really wouldn't just apply this with nothing else on personally, and you can do either way. So I'm gonna use more of a glowy foundation that's not as heavy, which would be one of my favorites that I feel like still is nice and smoothing and gives me coverage, but is going to work well with all of these cream products. So I'm gonna reach for my Armani Luminous Silk. So I'm gonna go ahead and apply that quickly off camera, and then we will dive into all of the cream face products. Foundation is on, and I wanna move in to the Makeup by Mario. So I prefer to do like a cream bronzing situation before I do concealer. That's just my preference because sometimes I feel like I pull it down too much or too in close to my eye. I'm just not the best with it. So we're gonna start off with the Transforming Skin Enhancer. This comes in 6 shades. I got the shade medium. I did see these run a little bit light. So this is a radiant finish, light coverage cream formula. It's a tinted complexion balm that warms and nourishes with sheer coverage to even out the appearance of skin tone. So essentially I bought it and I'm gonna use it like a cream bronzer. I haven't even touched it yet. Okay, so it's very emollient. It does have a radiance to it. Let's just sort of swatch this really quickly. So it definitely has a lot of radiance to it. I'm gonna try it out with a brush. I typically would use a sponge, but I'm gonna try it with a brush. I don't have the brush that Mario used, but I'm gonna use the Unit 303. Hopefully that works. And I just want to see if this is gonna give me enough of a color. I mean, it is sheer, but because I, you know, got the shade medium, it's definitely showing up. So I am kind of curious how this is going to play with powder It is so incredibly difficult to get up into my hairline without getting makeup in my hair. It's pretty much impossible. So I'm just keeping this higher up. I mean, it's blending beautifully. Like, I'm not struggling at all. So this is what it looks like applied. I have to say it was very easy, very quick. It definitely has a radiance to it, but it's not glittery. It's just very emollient, but it's thin. So it's not adding, you know, a thick layer that I feel like looks heavy on the skin. I don't think that it's enhancing texture, like even just like on my, you know, forehead and things like that. And I feel like it would be a really great product if you have dry skin, or if you just use more of like tinted moisturizers on the daily, because it is more of a sheer formula. I mean, it really was easy to apply. I actually was anticipating absolutely hating it, and I don't. I feel like this is one of the easier cream bronzers I've used, even though it's not that. Now, I do think that I prefer a little bit more definition. I'm gonna go in just to try this with the NARS bronzing cream. I picked up the Laguna 02, which is the original. So many people raved about this, and I believe it only came in this one shade, and then it was limited edition, and people were like, why didn't you make that permanent? So they did come out with a bunch of different shades. So I got the second shade. It does look a little bit deep. People seem to love this. I have a fresh tan on, by the way, like fresh. Okay, so this is definitely a little bit deep, but I feel like with my fresh tan, it would be, you know, it's gonna be fine. Without a tan, I probably should have gotten down a shade, but you can see like the difference. The Mario is glowy, like balmy, and then this NARS one's a little more pigmented and it's not glowy. So I just dipped in a little bit, and I just wanna see if I can just keep this lower and just sort of sculpt a little bit more. So comparing the two sides, I added just a little bit of the Laguna on this side. I do feel like it's a little more sculpted, but you know, nothing crazy. So I'm just gonna match it on this side. I feel like the Mario is honestly good enough, especially for every day. If you're not someone that likes to like even contour, and you just want a little bit of like definition, you want that bronzy look. Okay, I'm gonna be skipping around a little bit, but I wanna go in next with concealer. So this is the new concealer from Dominique Cosmetics. This is called, I believe, the Wide Awake Concealer. And I was really excited to try this. I usually get PR from Dominique Cosmetics, but for some reason I didn't get it. And then when I went to buy the set, the powder was sold out, but you guys let me know it restocked, so I purchased it. And then the day I got it, actually, they reached out to me and were like, hey, we want to send it to you. And I was like, I already bought it. So it's totally fine. I was really excited to try this out. This is super unique because it is the first that I've seen concealer with a metal tip. So it is cooling when it touches your skin. So it's interesting, a little bit different. I tried this yesterday, and I want to say maybe just yesterday. And I will tell you what I noticed about it, but I want to swatch this. I have the shade Oat Milk, which is the shade that Kristen Dominique was using to brighten in some of her Instagram reels. So they say this gives a natural, hydrated, radiant finish. They also say that it's medium to full coverage, and they do claim that it has caffeine in it to help with dark circles. So I'm gonna go ahead and apply. Now, when I touch this to my under eye, it is very cooling. Like, it feels really nice. There's no tugging. It's just very cooling. Now I'm just gonna do one eye at a time, because I did notice I used this yesterday and I felt like I let it sit for a minute and it was a little bit harder to blend. I'm gonna use the Dominique Cosmetics sponge. I picked this up as well. So I'm gonna start blending this out. The sponge is really nice and soft. So I would say it gives a medium coverage off the bat. It's very thin, so it's not heavy. And I do agree that it is a natural, sort of hydrated look. So I'm gonna go in on the other side. I mean, this does feel really nice. Actually, the way that it slides, I almost would love to see like, I'm sure there is one, but a skincare tool without the concealer that just has like a larger component like this, because I could see this just being super easy to roll under the eye and really depuff. So this is a little tricky with this applicator, but I have to give kudos to her for, you know, coming out with something unique to the market. I have never seen a concealer that has a metal tip like that. I'm sorry. I've seen some that have a metal tip like in a squeezy tube, like the Hailey's Beauty, the Huda Beauty, but I've never seen one actually with like a wand. Okay, so concealer is on. I feel like it looks really nice. Honestly, I can't complain. The only thing I noticed, again, when I used it yesterday is I wouldn't let this sit. When I say let it sit, I feel like I had it on for maybe a minute, minute and a half while I was doing something else. And I noticed that it was just a little bit of like lifting. So I would just apply and blend out. But now I want to move on to the Made by Mitchell blushes. Now these are not the original blushes, which didn't have any shimmer. They're just liquid blushes. These are the blush lights. So they're like highlighters, blush toppers. Now I picked up quite a few shades. I have to say, I don't know what happened because I've ordered from Beauty Bay quite often and I never had this issue, but these took like a month to get to me. I ordered these on launch day and they just arrived like 2 days ago. So I don't know what was happening there, but I want to go ahead and swatch some of these for you. So I did pick up 3 new shades in the original formula. I really like the formula and I want to use one of these as a base because the blush lights are more of like a highlighting blush topper product. So we have Can't Cope with Coral in the middle, which looks really pretty. Then we have Peach Sugar right here and then Melon Sorbet over here. So I think I'm going to mix the Can't Cope with Coral with the Melon Sorbet. I'm just going to use the bottom of the Dominique sponge. So I just kind of put it on the bottom of my hand and I'm just going to apply. This almost gives me the vibe of like that Dior Backstage blush in the coral shade, just like the color. It is light though, so I am having to, you know, apply quite a bit. Okay, so that's a pretty soft blush. I'm gonna take Peach Sugar and I'm gonna use a brush this time and try to just amp this up a little bit further back. So I'm just gonna use that same brush I used for the bronzer. Yeah, I like that more. Okay, so before I jump into the blush lights, which are more of like a highlight product, I wanna go in and set my face down just because I don't feel like it makes sense to apply the liquid glowy highlighter and then put powder on top. So I'm gonna be strategic in my setting. I'm gonna be using the translucent setting powder from Dominique Cosmetics, and I'm gonna use the sponge. I have quite a bit of creasing, but it doesn't bother me because I always set. So I wanna try this out. I'm hoping that it's smoothing because that's really what I look for in a setting powder. Okay, so I have it on my sponge and I'm just pressing in, making sure that I'm getting in those creases. So my initial thoughts is this is not the most smoothing that I've ever tried. It's not bad, like I do think that it did smooth my skin out, which most powders do, but it's not as smoothing as, let's say, my Huda Beauty or the Hailey's Beauty. So here is one side set with the Dominique powder. I mean, I definitely do think that it smoothed my skin, but I can just tell I still am seeing some texture that typically the Huda Beauty would like really erase. So I'm gonna go ahead and set the other side. Honestly, I don't know what's going on over here. There's just like this patch and it keeps lifting. So I'm just gonna go in with my Dior Backstage powder in the shade 2. And I just want to press this all over the cream products. That Dior powder helped tremendously. This is the best powder, hands down, if you use a lot of cream products. Every time I use a cream bronzer, I have issues with like blush, powder, something like that. I want to use the creams, but for some reason, I just have that patching and it just makes, I don't know, my makeup's just really difficult to get done. I wasn't gonna use any of these, but I'm going to now just to try one out and just add on top. So these are the new Benefit blushes. I picked up 2 minis. I got Shelly and Krista. So I think today I might go in with Shelly. Shelly is a sort of like peachy color. So here is Shelly, it's the lighter of the 2, and then Krista is definitely more punchy, but I don't want to go too intense unless, you know, Shelly doesn't do her job per se. But I got the minis because I didn't want to, you know, spend a ton on a bunch of them, and I just wanted to try out the formulas. So let's go in with the shade Shelly. So a little powdery, but it does match the colors that I was using. And they don't seem overly pigmented, but they're not sheer. So good amount of pigmentation. That's a pretty shade. So I'm gonna take some over my nose. I did put a little bronzer on my nose too. I'm just gonna pull this across. So because of our patching situation, I just realized that I forgot to use the Makeup by Mario Skin Perfector on top of the bronzer. That was my bad. I feel like this is where I get confused. I wonder if any of you are like me. I get so like confused because it's like, no, cream, powder, and it's like, I have to set my face or else like this makeup just won't work for me. So I feel like it just confuses me, whereas like cream blushes that go over powder, I just use them at the end and they're beautiful. So now I feel like I just messed that up, but we're gonna use this on the perimeter of the face, just add a little bit of warmth. So I picked up the shade Medium. Now this has a bronzer type color, then like gold shimmer, and then a lighter kind of shimmer. So when you swatch it like across, you get this sort of like glowy powder. This swatch is horrible. You know, what am I doing here? Okay, I'm gonna swirl it and then just swatch on my hand. So you can see you get that glow. This is not something I wanna put in my T-zone. And if I'm using it for bronzer, I'm gonna try to stay more on this side. So I'm just going to dip in and try to stay more on the bronzer side. Okay, so that did add a nice bronze to my forehead. Now there definitely is a radiance. So this is something that I would not want to put in textured areas like my T-zone. Even far in on my cheeks, I probably wouldn't. I would keep it up here and then maybe like back here a little bit. So this is what the Skin Perfector looks like. I feel like it did exactly what it said it was gonna do. I mean, essentially is a glowy sheer bronzer powder to set the balm, essentially. So if you wanna use it as a bronzer, just get, you know, a deeper shade. It could be a finishing powder as well if you get it in, you know, the shade around your foundation, but it is radiant. So you definitely are going to, you know, see your texture. And if you don't want as much of the radiance, just stay more on this side. So I don't hate it by any means. I just feel like I have a lot of like cream and liquids going on right now. I also just noticed, even though I set pretty heavily, that I have a little bit of creasing under my eyes. And I really set. So I'm gonna take a little bit more of that powder and just kind of like pack it in there. I noticed like right here, my little fine lines. So to finish off the eyes, I'm gonna go into the deepest shade and just run this on my lower lash line really close up, pretty lightly. I'm taking an even smaller, rougher brush. I'm gonna grab a little bit of this shimmery shade right here, and I just wanna put this on the inner corner. It's not like a glittery shade, it's more of just like a shimmer. Now I'm running some of my Melt Slick Waterline Pencil. Is that what it's called? Yeah, Slick Waterline Pencil in the color Ivory. So because we had that lifting with the blush on top of the bronzer, I'm honestly really nervous to try these, but I did want to demo them. So these are the blush lights or blush lights. I want to swatch them for you. So I got 3 of the pinkier shades. This one is called Pink Lynx. And then I also got Candy Trip, which is in the center. It's like a really icy pink. And then this one looks beautiful, A Chance of Peach. So they are, you know, like kind of like a really glittery, glowy liquid highlighter, but some of them have sort of like a blush type of color. And then I also did get a neutral shade called Champagne Array. So this is the champagne one. So I'm trying to figure out which one I want to try. I think I do want to try this peachy one. What's it called? A Chance of Peach. So what I'm going to do is apply a little bit of this to the back of my hand. And I'm going to use this Sonia G Jumbo concealer. So you can see like the beautiful glow it gives. I'm going to really blend in. This definitely has some glitter in it, so if you don't like that, you probably wouldn't like this. But I just sort of packed on quite a bit. Okay, so this is what the blush lights look like. I didn't have any issues with that. It definitely has some glitter in it, but it's a really pretty glowy like blush topper. It's a little bit tacky when I touch it, but I'm not sure why I had that intense patching on this side, which is the regular blush. Like, I don't understand that because I've used his blushes many times and I didn't have that issue, and I didn't have the issue with this topper either. I think it's really pretty. It's not something I would wear every day, but I felt like it was fun to use, and I want to play around with more of the pink colors going forward. So I want to go ahead and finish off with lips. I'm going to be using the Plump Line lip liner from Buxom in the shade Undercover. I just wanted something that wasn't like my typical brown. I mean, this is still sort of a nude, but it has a little bit more depth to it. And then I did pick up a couple of the Colourpop Fresh Kiss Glossy Lip Stains. So I want to try out this shade Virtue. Now I know Fenty Beauty just dropped some and I picked them up today, but I love a good stain. So this is like an orange color, which I do like more of like a corally bright or like a hot pink. So that is one coat. I'm going to go in for another. I think that's really pretty. So I really like that Colourpop lip stain. I would like it to be even a little more pigmented. I'm gonna go in with this Dior Glow lip oil in the color Cherry, just to add some shine. All right, guys, so here's my finished makeup look trying all these products. I can't say this is one of my favorite looks, but I was just trying a bunch at once. So I want to go over my thoughts on the products. I feel like the Bridgerton palette is just okay for me. I feel like these two shades are just a little bit too close, and when I blended them together, I did feel that I looked a little bit ill. For me, the standouts are going to be the shimmer shades. I mean, you have these beautiful, just high shine shades. So this is sort of what you're paying for, in my opinion. A little overpriced. I mean, I think that it's a cute little palette, but it's not one that I will reach for a ton, other than if I want to kind of dive into one of these really special metallic shades. Still too early to tell if I'm going to love this Cali Ray Glow Boosting Drops. Really, to me, this feels like a very thin oil that adds some hydration under your foundation. I don't feel like anything went over top of it horribly. Now, I did have that patching with the blush. I don't know really what the culprit is, so I have to keep testing it out because I've used those blushes before with my, you know, go-to products and they didn't patch. So it could have been this, it could have been the Mario, they didn't play well. But my first impression is it's a very thin formula. It does add some hydration without being greasy or heavy or sticky. So I like it so far. I'll keep trying it out. I'm still enjoying the Danessa Myrick's Yummy Skin Balm Powder. I just like this for a primer in the T-zone. I do feel that my skin looks textured today more so. It's because we used a lot of cream products and I also used a new powder, but overall I really do like the Danessa Myrick's. Now, in terms of the Dominique Cosmetics products, the powder is just not wowing me like I thought it would. I feel like I had some creasing even after setting. I don't know if that's the powder or the concealer or both together. I don't dislike it, but I don't feel that it's the most smoothing that I've ever tried. And that's what I'm looking for in a powder, especially a loose powder. I want something that's like really gonna smooth out my texture. So I don't know, I'll have to keep trying it out, but this isn't wowing me as of right now. In terms of the concealer, I really love the innovation and I love the applicator. It really does feel super, super cooling on your under eye. It really is like a relaxing feeling. I would honestly, like I said, just like this component just to rub back and forth. It doesn't tug or anything like that. I do feel like this is a medium coverage. You could probably build it to a medium, maybe low full. And I do think it's hydrating. So I like this. I had a little bit of that sort of like settling into my lines even after I set it. So again, I don't know if it's this, the powder, or both. So I'm gonna keep trying this out. I have a feeling that I'm going to really like the concealer, but the powder's just not going to be a total favorite of mine. Moving on to the cream bronzers or balms, I really didn't have an issue with the Makeup by Mario Skin Enhancer. It does feel emollient. This is not something that I would put in my T-zone ever, but it did blend really easily, and because it has more of a sheer finish, it really just took like seconds to do. I just don't know, because I have such a hard time with patching and lifting. And again, I don't know if it was like this mixed with the Mitchell blush, but that really was hard for me to correct. So I definitely want to try this in other ways, using it maybe alone and then setting with my Dior powder, or using it and then setting with the powder that goes with it. I'm not sure if that will work for me. There's something about my skin that just has an issue with cream bronzers. I don't know what it is, but every single time they patch, like 90% of the time something patches, and it's so interesting because with cream blushes I have better luck and I can put them over powder a lot of the times, but there's something about a cream bronzer that just wants to lift, or a contour. I felt like this did everything it claimed to do though, and I actually really liked it until I went in with that Made by Mitchell blush, so I don't really know what happened there. I also enjoyed the Laguna Bronzer from NARS. I feel like we're seeing a ton of cream bronzers. I didn't notice any patching or any issues, again, until I applied that liquid blush. But this formula didn't feel overly matte to me or overly sticky and emollient. It's sort of right in the middle. I feel like the new Charlotte Tilbury is more like putty matte, and this is a little bit more creamy, but it's not something like the, let's say, Charlotte Tilbury, you know, Hollywood contour wand or something like that. So it's a good run-of-the-mill sort of medium, I would say, like a natural finish, maybe even leaning matte, but it's not like a dry matte. So I feel like a lot of people are going to like this, especially if you like a cream bronzer. Moving on to the Makeup by Mario Skin Perfector. Essentially, to me, this is just a glowy bronze powder or finishing powder. If you want it to be less glowy, you're gonna stay down here. If you want more of that glow, you're gonna go up here. I do also think you could use this as a finishing powder if you get it in a shade closer to your skin tone. Just keep in mind, this definitely has a shimmer. It's more like a sweep on the perimeters of your face to add warmth, or just sweep all over, avoiding, you know, where you have a lot of texture, to give you a little bit of radiance. So I feel like it did exactly what it claimed to do. Not too sure what to say about the original blushes from Made by Mitchell. I actually have a few shades and I really enjoy them. I've used them over powder or on an unset face, and I've never had the lifting that I had today. So something didn't gel with this and I'll have to figure it out. I actually did like the Blush Light. Didn't have any issues with that. So I really don't know what was going on there, but this is a really unique product because it is like a blush topper slash liquid highlighter, and they do have like bronzy tones and more golden tones, and then of course like the peachy pink. So I'm pleasantly surprised that I didn't struggle with the Blush Light, and I'm excited to use these products more and just use them with my go-to base products that I know work for me. Not surprised that I really love the Benefit Blush in Shelly. This has a really pretty glow to it, but it's not overly pigmented and it's not sheer. It's like the perfect amount. You can build it up quite quickly, but you don't have to be afraid that you're going to look like a clown. So I really like this. Again, I picked up 2 mini shades. I typically get PR from Benefit, but I didn't get them, so I bought these 2, and I may go back and get a few more just because I'm a blush fanatic and there was a lot of colors that really spoke to me. I'm glad that they finally expanded because I feel like their original blushes were all just really, really light. And lastly, I really like the Colourpop Fresh Kiss Glossy Lip Stain. I'd like it to have a little bit more pigment. I really like the popsicle lips. I think we all know this, and I know that I mentioned earlier Fenty Beauty is coming out with something similar, so I already bought 2 of them, and I'm interested to see just how pigmented they are, how long they last, see how glossy they are. But I feel like this is a really beautiful option for someone like me. I don't typically wear super bright colors, so for me, I would reach for something like this that's more of like a watered down version that stains my lips. So I think this is a really good option. I also like the e.l.f. ones if you're looking for an affordable option. All right, guys, so that is everything for this trying new makeup. I hope I demoed some products you were interested in seeing. Let me know if you've tried any of these, if you had a good experience or a bad experience. I always love bouncing off you guys in the comments. I will link all the products that I used today down below. If you're new here, I hope you'll subscribe, and if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Thank you guys again so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.